All right, welcome back. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, it's really personal for a lot of people and honestly, super misunderstood. We're talking about that intense link between rejection and ADHD. Why does a tiny little comment sometimes feel like this massive tidal wave of emotion? We're going to get into what's actually going on inside the brain.
So, let me ask you something, and I mean, be honest with yourself here. Does a little bit of criticism ever feel like a huge personal attack? Like your boss or a friend says something super small and bam, it feels like a gut punch. If hearing a simple no can send you spiraling, I want you to know you are so not alone. And we're about to unpack exactly why that happens.
Okay, so first things first. Let's just talk about that feeling itself. Before we get into all the whys and the brain science, we've got to put a name to the what. That overwhelming, intense experience that can be just so hard to put into words.
And this right here, this quote just nails it. It's not just feeling a little sad or bummed out. Nope. For so many people with ADHD, what feels like rejection can trigger this sudden, just all-consuming wave of pain. It can feel totally out of proportion to what actually happened, right? But that feeling, it is 100% real.
And look, there's actually a name for this. It's called emotional hyperarousal. And this is so important, it is not a personality flaw. It's not you being too sensitive. It is a real, recognized neurological response. It's kind of like, imagine your brain has an emotional volume knob, and it's just cranked all the way to 11. So even a hint of criticism can feel like a genuine 5-alarm threat. Okay, so we've established the what. We know what this feeling is. But now for the big question, why? Why does this happen? Let's get into the really fascinating stuff now, the science behind the ADHD brain, to see why rejection can hit so much harder.
This right here really shows the difference in a nutshell. For a typical brain, the emotional response is kind of gradual. There are these buffers that soften the blow. But for the ADHD brain, it's not gradual at all. It's like flipping a light switch. That emotional spike is immediate. It's intense because those buffers just aren't as strong. It really is that feeling of going from 0 to 60 in like a split second.
And this whole thing isn't just because of one single factor. It's more like a perfect storm of a few different things happening in the brain. You've got the intraspaced nervous system, which means social connection is super high stakes, so rejection feels catastrophic. Then you have challenges with working memory, which makes it really hard to remember past wins when you're in that moment of pain. It's like the rejection is the only thing that exists. And you pile on difficulties with executive functions and emotional regulation, the very systems that are supposed to help you pause and think, and you can see how it all comes together to make you uniquely vulnerable. So we've got the feeling, we've got the science, but what does all this actually look like day to day? Because this isn't just theory, right? This sensitivity has a huge, huge impact on real life. It shapes our actions, our relationships, even how we see ourselves, sometimes in ways we don't even notice.
Well, one of the biggest ones is this. You might find yourself constantly seeking approval and validation. It turns into this pattern of people-pleasing, right? Anything to avoid that awful feeling of rejection, even if it means ignoring your own needs.
And then there's the flip side, avoidance. If you're afraid of getting hurt, what do? You start avoiding things. New challenges, social risks. The fear of criticism can get so big that it just feels safer to not even try.
And of course, this can lead to constantly second-guessing every single decision you make. That fear of messing up and facing disapproval can just create this non-stop internal critic, making even tiny choices feel like this huge, high-stakes test. Okay, I know. This can all sound really heavy, maybe even a little bleak. But this is where we turn a corner. Because just understanding this stuff is the most powerful first step. So now, we're going to talk about how to actually navigate this emotional storm. We're going to look at some real, practical tools. And here's a really great technique. It's a simple 3-step pause you can use right in the moment. First, just notice the feeling. Don't judge it, just acknowledge it. Like, wow, okay, that stung. Step 2, get curious, not furious. Instead of beating yourself up, just ask, why? Why did that hurt? What button did that push? And that little pause gives you the power for step 3, choose your response. You get to decide what to do next instead of just letting the emotion take over. And this might be the most important thing I say today. Your sensitivity is a part of you.
It is not a flaw that you need to fix. It is literally part of your brain's wiring. The goal is never to stop feeling. It's about learning how to work with these big emotions instead of being at war with them.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Now that we understand this, now that we have a name for it and know the why, what do we do with it? How can we start building more compassionate spaces, not just for other people, but for ourselves? How do we build a world that's less about fearing rejection and more about building real resilience? That's what I want to leave you thinking about. Thanks so much for diving into this with me.